Hi team, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to go through an article to help you learn a bit of English, come across some new vocabulary, and we are going to do it through a technology article. Here we're going to talk about Fitbit. Fitbit are having some issues and their users are not very happy. So we'll go through that and I'll point out any interesting phrases, words, or any phrasal verbs as well. So, start here with our headline. What is going on with Fitbit? And so this is by Victoria Song, and this is from a website called The Verge, which is great for technology articles. The article starts with, these days, Fitbit users seem to be asking each other the same question. Is it me? Or is the app down for everybody else too? Between frequent server outages and a recent decision to shutter popular social features, frustrated Fitbit customers say they're weighing their options. The two things in this first paragraph, we've got this idea of shutter or to shutter. But this is to turn off a feature and make it unavailable. But now they're making a choice to go, okay, we don't need this feature in our app, so Fitbit are turning it off. And then this last part here is to weigh options, weighing their options. This is to think about their options to make a decision. They're thinking, should I continue to use my Fitbit device or should I try a different one? Our next paragraph starts with, earlier this month, Google-owned Fitbit suffered a massive server outage that left users unable to sync trackers or view their data within the app or on Fitbit's website. If it had been a one-off server outage, it's likely users would have written it off as a fluke. But it extended into a second day and then a third. Then, around 1 p.m. ET yesterday, over 1,600 users reported yet another outage, according to Down Detector. Others reported the outage to the @Fitbit Support Twitter account and the r/Fitbit subreddit. Fitbit spokesperson Andrea Holding told The Verge that the short outage was quickly resolved, but for many Fitbit users, it was one outage too many. A few things in that paragraph, where we've got this idea of one-off. This is just a one-time event. So they're talking about a one-off server outage. One time, happened only once, no real big problem. We have this next one here, to write something off. So we've got it in this sentence here. In this case, the users decided that this particular thing is not really important. Here we're saying if it was one time, the users would not have thought it as important and also thought it was a fluke, which is the next word here, which is something that happens, usually good, but not in this case, that it is the result of chance instead of skill or planning. They're just saying this server outage was not planned, and as a result, it was by chance. It was a fluke. The next part here, we've got ET, so 1 p.m. ET, which is Eastern time zone and the Eastern time zone for the United States. All right. So I think that was everything from that paragraph. So the next paragraph starts with someone talking here. I rely on this app to track not only my steps, but my heart rate. I'm almost 22 weeks pregnant, so I try to closely monitor anything and everything I can. Fitbit user Carly Johnson tells The Verge. The outages make everything so inconsistent and unreliable. A bit of a problem, obviously, when you're expecting things to be reliable from monitoring your health. So a bit of a problem for Fitbit. Rubbing salt into the wound, Fitbit announced last week that it was sunsetting challenges, a popular community feature that allows users to compete with friends, family, and other users. Google, Fitbit's parent company, said that the feature, along with open groups and Fitbit Studio Developer Kit, was of limited use. Okay, this paragraph starts with this interesting one here, to rub salt into the wound. This is to make a difficult situation even worse for someone. So here, the sunsetting of features, so we'll talk about that in a moment, made the situation for Fitbit even worse after the server outages they had. So server outages, and now the problem's even bigger. The next part here is to sunset a feature. So this is to retire or remove a feature from an application. The next part here is the backlash from users was fierce and swift. A backlash is a strong feeling among a group of people in reaction to a change or recent events. So in this case, the reaction was very angry to the news that some features will be sunset. And fierce and swift, yeah, kind of like angry, powerful, and fast is the reaction. We've got another quote here. The current weekly disruption to the service is just the rotten cherry on top of a badly made cake. This is kind of an unusual way of phrasing it. So let's start with a cherry on top. So usually a cherry on top is something that is this added bonus for something. It's like, oh, the cherry on top was that that also had this other great feature. However, a rotten cherry, not very great. But when you have a piece of fruit, but it's very old, it goes rotten. And then on a badly made cake. So if you can imagine that you have a bad cake that doesn't taste very good, then you add this rotten cherry. So now the cake and whatever, the idea of eating this is even worse. We've got another quote here. I've recently purchased 3 Fitbits for my friends solely so they could participate in the challenges to help with their fitness. 2 days after I had gifted them, the announcement was made. Fitbit user Anna Cooper tells The Verge, explaining that she regularly participates in 3 to 4 challenges every week with separate groups of friends and family. The current weekly disruption to the service is just the rotten cherry on top of a badly made cake at this point. The next part continues as another quote from someone. Challenges and trophies are the core reasons why I even enjoy having a smartwatch, let alone a Fitbit, and Michael Brown tells The Verge. A long-time Fitbit user, Brown says he decided to switch from the Sense 2 to the Pixel Watch as soon as it was announced. Removing that just doesn't make sense. And will probably be a deterrent for me to even wear the Pixel Watch most of the time. The next paragraph starts with Johnson, Cooper, and Brown, so all the people who have given quotes, aren't outliers either. Right after announcing the challenges would no longer be available last week, a horde of Fitbit users flocked to social media to express bewilderment at the decision. I spent several hours over the weekend combing through hundreds of complaints across Twitter, Reddit, and Mastodon. So a few words in here. A horde. So this is usually like a big group of something, usually animals or people or monsters even. Then we've got flocked. So they all went to a particular place, this massive group. And then here to express bewilderment. So they were saying, we are very confused at this decision. And then the next part here, it talks about I. So the author is talking here. I spent several hours over the weekend combing through hundreds of complaints. So when we talk about to comb through, this is to investigate or look through something with focus. So if you're to talk about something in IT, you could say, I will comb through the documentation to find something that solves the problem. Usually with lots of documentation, lots of reading, or lots of documents. Many, like Cooper, said that they use the app's community features to feel connected to loved ones. Others said the social features are why they stuck with the platform over the years. To make things worse, Google and Fitbit said that any previously earned trophies from competitions would also become inaccessible once challenges are removed from the app on March 27th. So, yeah, not ideal. There's lots of things that Fitbit users are probably not going to be happy about. A loved one. We've got this little phrase here. Connected to loved ones. Yeah, a person that you love, usually a member of your family. Then we have to stick with, is to continue doing something and not stop or change to do something else despite difficulties or inconvenience. So here, the social features are one of the reasons why they continued using Fitbit. So that's why we can use stuck with. Another source of frustration is Fitbit's customer service. During the most recent outages, @Fitbit support replied to affected users with their boilerplate responses, advising they reboot their devices or follow basic troubleshooting steps that often led to testy exchanges, such as the one embedded below, where customers accused Fitbit of passing off systemic server issues as user error. So a bit to unpack here. We've got boilerplate. So boilerplate is often text that can be copied and used in documents or computer programs with very small changes. So they might have like, here's something saying, we apologize for the problem, we're looking into it. But the only thing they change is maybe your name at the top of the message. And so this is similar to like a template. We also had testy. Testy is often like angry or annoyed exchanges. This other one here, to pass off. So here, passing off systemic server issues as user error. So they're trying to say, no, it wasn't a system problem. It was a problem with your device or how you are using the application. We got another quote here. I haven't even bothered reaching out to them, says Johnson, regarding the most recent outage. I know that they know the system is down, so I don't want a uniform response like they give to everyone else. A uniform response? Yeah, a response that looks the same. So this template boilerplate response is like this, and these are very common. Automated responses are used a lot for applications, but people don't really like them because they don't feel very like natural or understanding of the problem. There's not a single obvious reason why Fitbit seems to be floundering all of a sudden, but some are pointing the finger at Google ahead of the Pixel Watch launch last year. Google's SVP of hardware, Rick Osterloh, told The Verge that the company bought Fitbit because it needed its health and fitness platform to succeed in the wearable space. And while the Pixel Watch's Fitbit integration was touted as a marquee feature, Google's recent decisions regarding Fitbit are baffling. Floundering basically means not doing very well. Then wearable space. So we use this idea of space as like an area of an industry, perhaps, or a group of products. So here, wearable space, they're talking about devices that you can wear on your body. And in this case, watches. Touted. To tout something is like to nominate something, to say, well, this is the best thing. And marquee feature is the best or most important feature. And then baffling here is confusing. So Google's recent decisions regarding Fitbit are confusing. For instance, Google kneecapped the Fitbit Versa 4 and Sense 2 by removing features like Google Assistant and third-party apps like Spotify and Starbucks. As a result, any long-time Fitbit user would be upgrading to products with fewer smart features than their predecessors, unless they chose to buy a Pixel watch instead. And the decision to remove legacy Fitbit social features without offering an alternative threatens to chip away at one of Fitbit's greatest strengths, its community. Okay, so to kneecap. So this is an interesting one. To injure someone at the knees so it's much more difficult for them to walk. In this case, they kneecapped Fitbit Versa 4 and Sense 2. They were basically slowing the progress or success of the product. And then a little bit later on, we have this legacy here. So legacy is used quite a lot in IT, not often to talk about a feature, but often used to talk about a system or product. But in this case, Fitbit are saying that the social features are no longer used very often, so that's why they're removing them. In terms of a system or product, often used to describe technology that is old. You are now unable to buy it because it's very old, but people still use it because it's still useful to them. The other thing here is to chip away. So this is to gradually break off small pieces or parts of something, or slowly degrade something. And in this case, slowly degrade their user community. So the community is not so strong anymore, they're not very engaged, or they're not very interested in the product anymore. A strong community is a big part of any company's product strategy, but it's especially important when it comes to fitness. For example, Peloton's dedicated user base is a major reason why the company has been able to weather numerous public relations gaffes, product recalls, and doubts about its business. Research also shows that exercising with others improves motivation and performance and encourages people to stick with a specific platform. And that applies to workout buddies you connect with virtually. Okay, now we talk about this other company called Peloton as an example to show why community is important. Public relations gaffes, mistakes, usually big mistakes. We've got this term here, product recall. So this is an order for the return of a product made by a company because there's a fault or a problem in the product. So Peloton has had problems with their bikes or treadmills, and they had to recall them for a safety issue. While Fitbit previously told The Verge that only a limited number of active users participated in legacy social features, those that did were among Fitbit's most loyal customers, like Cooper. These were the folks who bought multiple Fitbits for friends and family as a way to stick to their fitness goals. So Fitbit are making a choice that is not great for their strongest supporters. Between server outages, removing challenges, and nerfed products, Fitbit's community is in danger of disintegrating. Nerfed, this is kind of an interesting word. It is to make something not as good as it used to be. And this originally came from video games, talking about how if you have an ability and it was very strong, is that then they would make it more balanced for other players to make the game fairer. But here they're saying, okay, well, we're going to nerf the product. We're going to make it less useful for some reason. The next paragraph starts with, I initially had hopes that Google would add to the Fitbit experience. I was all for the acquisition, but now I'm starting to have my regrets, says Brown. I'll definitely be giving up my Pixel watch if there's nothing replacing challenges and trophies. This is eventually going to make me leave Fitbit if this feature is not kept, as there are certainly better trackers in the market, says Cooper. referring to the lack of Fitbit challenges. She also noted that after all this, she intends to avoid Google products, as it seems like the company is trying to steer users away from Fitbit. Instead, she's considering buying the Apple Watch. Johnson agrees, so someone else. I'm definitely looking into switching to another watch or tracker. So at the end here, to look into is just to investigate. I hope you enjoyed that article. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again in another one.